Guys, what's going on? Listen, bringing you new information or a deep dive into Alyssa Hyatt and the Shanquella Robinson case. Now, as you know, people have been talking about Alyssa Hyatt left, right, and center. We're going to get into her family's powerful connections, why they are not opening their mouths to help or even call for justice for Shanquella. Spoiler alert, it might be because Alyssa is more involved than anybody first thought. And third of all, let's get into the weirdest thing that actually hit me. The fact that Alyssa went on that vacation. The fact that Nasir also had deceased family members that died that same week as Alyssa's sister. Because when you get to the details, it really paints the mind of what the heck is wrong with y'all. Seriously, what is wrong with you people? Think about it, okay? On the morning of October 28th, we know that Alyssa's sister lost her life. It was assumed that it was her sister who was a cop, but it wasn't. It was a distant sister that lost her life. Alyssa and the family were at the hospital. At 1 a.m. it happened. Alyssa's sister was brought to the hospital. The family was notified. It looks like from reports, Alyssa went straight from the hospital to the airport. Mind you, the sister died then and went to the airport and then sat there drinking tequilas and tacos and nachos while you're dealing with your sister's death. We also know that the funeral, you know what? Let's slow this down. We also know the funeral service, the wake was held November 10th. The funeral service was held November 11th. These people sat up there unironically mourning the passing of someone that brought them so much light. And after still as a minute, you know what, we'll get into it. First, let's get into, first of all, the odd circumstances of Alyssa's sister's death. And then we're going to get into the other questions that were raised. Let's go. Okay, first of all, let's get into the details. Jamestown man charged with murder of the shooting deletion of ex-girlfriend. This is in High Point, North Carolina. Okay. Now this was updated. This story was published and updated on 12:05 p.m. August the 28th. But let me get into the details because this is going to blow your mind. Police have charged a Jamestown man in the shooting death of his ex-girlfriend. Demetrius R. Hill, 31, is charged with first-degree murder and a possession of a firearm by a felon. Woo! Hill is accused of deleting 31-year-old Anita Hyatt of Jamestown. Officers called to the Super 8. If you guys don't know, Super 8 is a chain of, what do you call it? It's a motel chain. And listen, baby, if anybody ever invites you over to a Super 8, no shade to Super 8, but if anybody says, let's spend the night at the Super 8, you better call the police because nothing nice happens in a Super 8. I'm just saying. But anyway, they were called to a Super 8 motel by Wyndham on Regency Drive about 1 a.m., right? And found her shot. Now get this. She was alive when the police found her. Family was notified. How do we know family was notified? Her sister's a cop. Her mom is a prominent minister. And her stepfather is also, he used to play for a football team. He is very good friends. Well, he's good friends, or at least friends with the governor. And he is very, very connected in that area. In any case, when you are brought to a hospital, your next of kin is notified. Also, she was alive when she was brought to the hospital, although she later passed away at the hospital. She later passed away at the hospital. Now, listen to this. She was taken there by her. So her ex-boyfriend was the one that pulled the trigger. He was held without bail in Guilford County Jail. Now, officers were called about 1 a.m. to 440 Regency Drive. That's a Super 8. Listen to these details. And found Anita Hyatt suffering from a bang-bang wound. She later died in the hospital. The suspect is in custody. We know that. Now, there's a couple other things that we need to also know about this, because this is the crazy part. One question everybody had that I think we all have is, if this was your ex-boyfriend, what were you doing at a motel with them. Now, some people said, okay, they were having a sneaky link, but the police themselves said that there was no information, including why the two were at the motel together. There was no information. He was charged with first-degree murder, possession of a firearm by a felon. He also has a history, including assault with a deadly weapon with intent to delete, inflicting serious injury, conspiracy, and assault of a police officer, according to the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. He was also convicted in Randall County of robbery with a dangerous weapon. Listen, he just got released from jail 2 years ago. You guys, let's actually put this into perspective, okay? This man is a very dangerous man by anybody's account. Alyssa comes from a very powerful family in that area. You're friends with the governor. Your mom is a minister. You guys are obviously pretty well off. You're at least middle class, right? And your sister is a police officer, okay? A lot of connections going on. The fact that your sister, and I'm sorry, Anita, I believe it is, the fact that Anita, this is Alyssa's sister, was with this man in a motel and no information is given. The fact that the family exerted the full pressure of the law to make sure this man stays underneath the jail, as they should. But let's also look at the little details that paint a picture of Alyssa is, do you have feelings? Now, I know everybody grieves differently, okay? But can we all agree it's a little bit odd that your sister is rushed to the hospital at 1 a.m. This is October 28th. Your sister is rushed to the hospital at 1 a.m. The family's notified. The family rushes there, okay? The family rushes there. Your sister passes away in the hospital. You then board a plane to Cabo, Mexico, to have margaritas, nachos, salsa, queso fundido, or whatever you want to call it. Can we talk about how odd and how strange, and how even though you cannot second guess someone's going, why would you even be in the situation to want to be around strangers? We saw the video where they were doing drunken push-ups and playing party games. We saw her happy, and it looked like she was happy, and it looked like she was partying, okay? So this all happened on the night of the 28th when the private chef was there and they were having a birthday dinner for déjeuner. Now, let's look at, okay, what happened the next day, October 29th. The morning of October 29th, okay, somewhere between the morning and the early afternoon of October 29th, Shanquella Robinson was brutally assaulted and ended up losing her life at the hands of déjeuner. At the hands of déjeuner. However, that's 24 hours from when you stood in front of your sister in the hospital and watched her slip away and go to glory. And you're partying, in less than 24 hours, something happens. Again, Nasir Wiggins, 4 people in his family, 4 people in his family had lost their lives that same week. Nasir got on a plane, went to Cabo, and partied like it's 1999. Now, I do want to say this, right? I believe with Nasir, it was an aunt, uncle, and nieces and nephews. Well, yeah, 4 people. I don't know if it's an uncle, but it was an aunt, nieces and nephews, and whatnot that lost their lives. We still are trying to figure out how. It does not seem like it was natural, and it does not seem like it was a car accident. We're trying to actually get details. But the point is, in all fairness, you got on the plane. You don't know how close the extended family was, if he was tight with his aunt, uncle, nieces, and nephews. So on that point, we can actually give Nasir a pass. But for Alyssa, if what's being reported is true, you got on a plane, you stood over your sister as she died in the hospital, and then found a way to get on a plane and go party like nothing happened. And we're watching you play drunk push-up shot games with doing push-ups and laughing and joking like nothing happened. And then less than 24 hours later, this young woman is brutally assaulted in the nude for what looks like no apparent reason, brutally assaulted to the point of it becomes a homicide, and you were there, and there is not one mention, not one thing. You stay until the 31st when you are and you come home. Your mom's a minister. She's prominent in the area. Isn't the first thing ministers do reach out and be like, how are you doing? Let's hold hands. Come and say a few words, especially when you're connected to it. Send some flowers. Show you have some manners. No, that didn't happen in this case, did it? Alyssa got out of here and she acted like nothing happened, and her prominent family acts why nothing happened. What's more, an additional thing that, again, we don't know what Alyssa's role is. This. A lot of people like to say she's the one that snitched. Don't seem like it. Because if she was the one that snitched, I would imagine, one, her mom will be calling for justice for Shanquella. You know that rally that had the whole North Carolina area, had them all set out where prominent community leaders came out and demanded justice? Where was her mommy? Have we heard anything in the pulpit? Have we heard anything in the pulpit since Shanquella passed away? The whole world is calling for justice for her. Nancy Grace is calling for justice. Dateline is calling for justice. CNN is calling for justice, right? ABC is calling for justice. All of Twitter's calling for justice. All of YouTube's calling for justice. Local papers and news stations are calling for justice. But then I think it is Shalom Baptist Church. We'll get the exact name. Quiet. Not one mention. Not one prayer. This is someone your daughter saw it happen. Not one mention. Not one prayer. Not one collection plate passed around. Not one donation to the family. Not one single family. You didn't even send a carnation, let alone a daisy, right? Not one edible arrangement sent to the family. It's curtains. Nobody in the family comes around and they're asking. You have to ask yourself, why are they not asking for justice for Shanquella? And they have platforms. These aren't just quiet people, 80 years old. They don't even know how to interview work. They're just like, sweetie, come show me how do I make the computer go? And you're like, Grandma, you gotta press enter. Press enter. If you want to make the computer grow. There's no one. Not one person with a huge platform. Her father, who is very good friends with the governor, played on college division football, Wolfpack, prominent in the area. This is her stepfather, prominent in that area. Is there anything? There's nothing. But there's an extra layer to this too. This family is prominent. This family has means. This family has money, right? This family had Alyssa's funeral, I believe it was, had Alyssa's funeral on, let me check my notes. I'm sorry, not Alyssa, I keep saying Alyssa, Anita. Had Anita's funeral on November 10th, well after Shanquella's funeral, well after anybody knew. How about this? And this is on some real stuff. A lot of people are saying, oh my God, well, you know, they knew and they couldn't do it. And why would they reach out? Because the girl's funeral was the 10th. You just lost your baby. If anybody ever has been visited by the angel of death, the spirit of death, whatever you believe, you know for a fact that when you deal with that pain, when you see others dealing with that pain, it's like you're bonded. You know what they're going through, and you want to try to find a way to ease their pain or at least acknowledge their pain. Again, you know what it's like. So the fact that the first day that they were back, right? The minister, the powerful stepfather, and the cop sister didn't say one word, one prayer, send one carnation, let alone a daisy or a daffodil over to that house. Let's not forget, according to the family, that video came out way after they got back. 4 or 5 days passed before they even knew about the video. And how many days passed before they even knew about the autopsy? I believe the autopsy came back, what was it, like a week or two after she was declared dead. So at this point, everybody still thinks it's alcohol poisoning. Yeah, there's that fight video. And the family's just like, yo, y'all was fighting up there, but no one's still putting 2 and 2 together because they don't know that 2 actually exists. They thought it was 1 and 1 equals 2. Sound a little fishy, but you see what I'm saying? There was more than enough time for Alyssa, Nazir, Malik, Khalil, Dejanay's, Winter's family to acknowledge. Dejanay and Winter sat in front of the family's face and didn't say anything. We all know why. They didn't send flowers. They didn't do anything, neither did their families. You guys, at this point, we don't know if Alyssa Hyatt is what she is guilty of, or even if she is guilty. But when you look at what we know so far, something is not adding up. It is not adding up greatly. And again, it looks like Alyssa and her family, with all their money, all their power, all their ties, are doing zero to get justice for Shanquella. And why is that? Because maybe they know something we don't know. Maybe this Alyssa that everybody's been trying to get it to pass, right? Some people say that's her holding the phone taping it. Some say it's not. But is this the way innocent people believe? And I know you can say, well, Tisa, innocent people can act however they want. That's true. But there is something very off in the way Alyssa is handling it. And there's something very off in the way that her minister mom is handling it. According to the people in the church, her mom has not said one word about Shanquella, and Shanquella has been eating up all of North Carolina and has not said one word in her service, in her thing, not even one prayer. And this is before the autopsy came out. Why do you think that is? Do you think she kept it a secret from her mom? Or do you think she ran back and cried to her mom? Her mom knew what was going on and she chose to stay quiet because whatever Alyssa may have told her is something where she knows that she already lost one daughter and she's not going to lose another. And it don't matter, because that's when somebody's faith is truly practiced. It's easy to stand up on the pulpit and be like, yes, 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 Lord, Lord, Lord. But when you are tested in your own life, when it takes strength in your own life to demand justice, to demand that the will of the Lord is done, and that demand that the Lord's will, that fairness and equity, that truth will prevail, right? It's easy to do it when it doesn't affect you. But all of a sudden, when you're looking at maybe losing another daughter to a Mexican prison, all of a sudden you don't know. And we need to ask questions about the people that are still frequenting that church. Are they not asking questions? Or when it comes to their minister, is there a pass? Is the Lord, are you going to let the Lord's work be done by staying quiet? Again, a lot of questions. The one thing we can agree is it looks like these people have no moral hygiene. It looks like it was all smoke and mirrors, because when they were tested, what did they do? They stayed quiet and they protected their own. Y'all, I'm diving into this, right? I want to give a shout out to I'll do it in the next video. Y'all, we're diving into this. We're doing a deep dive. I'm doing my best to find out who are Nasir's family members that actually passed away, because something is not adding up. And while what happened to Shanquella is beyond, it seems like maybe there are little links tying it to something in the US, because you know what they say, if we can get some strong leads tying it to the US, even though there's only one arrest warrant for Dejanay, and once she steps foot right on Mexican soil, that arrest warrant will turn into her being in custody. But for her to be arrested, she needs to be deported, extradited back to Mexico to step foot in that ground. The arrest could not happen on US soil, right? My whole point is, if, and the Cabo 6 think they got off scot-free, right? Now it's the Cabo 5. They're like, okay, well, as long as Dejanay stay quiet, which is true. If Dejanay stays quiet and says, they don't know anything, it was just me, they don't know anything, they actually might get off. However, there are charges that can be pressed under US law, but there needs to be a link. There needs to be more than one link. If they can prove that whatever happened to Shanquella, or even get a suspicion that whatever happened to Shanquella started on US soil, this is even down to an argument or whatever in the in the airport, but something more serious, something more sinister, the way that death is so heavy. Whatever happened, if it transferred down to Mexico and came to an end, then they can be persecuted by the FBI, by local officials, by everything. We don't have to wait for Mexico, since there's no warrants out for those other people and the FBI is investigating it. We don't have to wait for Dejanay to go down for those other people to be brought up on charges. Again, the FBI is investigating it. When you are being investigated by the FBI, they are looking to bring up charges because you're being investigated by the FBI. But let's see if that can actually happen. You guys, reach out, tag the president, vice president, our side, Mexico, Department of State. Do what we can. Do not let the story die. But the more we look into the story, the more we have to say that we were just dealing with some cold-hearted people. I want to call them narcissists. I don't know enough about them too, but we can agree we are dealing with some cold-hearted people. Anyway, listen, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.